God knows the ego can be very strong with entrepreneurs. I don't need a coaching. I know. Look, that is the biggest challenge.
Do you think every entrepreneur should have a coach?
Why does every sports team have a coach? Why startups fail? Big reason that we don't talk about is the mindset. You come to a point where you might be a bit lost. And that lack of clarity, there is nothing worse than not making a decision. A bad decision is better than no decision at all.
With extensive experience running SMEs, spanning 150 employees across 3 countries, Laurent Notin has coached countless business owners, helping them achieve their business goals.
One thing that I love to do is asking people, especially at this stage, tell me about your company. What do you do? Don't pitch. I'm not an investor. Don't pitch. Because one of the things that I see over and over again is that lack
for founders and entrepreneurs to overcome these bottlenecks and challenges? Is it, a variety of different ways that you help somebody, or is it just comes down to, 5 things on your menu? And
first, it's about realizing that it starts with you.
Welcome, Laurent. Welcome from Finland.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
I know we've been going back and forth trying to set this up. It's taken a little while, but yes. I'm glad we're finally here. So, we talked a little about your journey, which is very interesting. So can you just share with us a little bit about the start of your journey and what led you to kind of start focusing on coaching entrepreneurs, especially, niching in this, how to get them out of their own bottlenecks from what you were doing before?
Yeah, of course. So I'm French. I live in Finland because my wife is Finnish. So I've been living in Finland for 5 years, but before that I lived 20 years in Southeast Asia. So I left France at the age of 23. I'm 48 now, so I've lived abroad longer than I lived in France. And when I was in Southeast Asia, what happened is I started working for this very small market research company. I was in Laos at that time, and a year after I started, the owners, they told me, well, we're going to move to Cambodia because there's a lot more things happening than in Laos. We need someone to run the business, and it's you. There you go. Here are the keys. Go on. So I'm a bit exaggerating, but that's
how it felt, right? Yeah, that's funny.
We're throwing the deep end. Go.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it was a small company of 10 staff. I had zero experience in management. I didn't know what it took to run a business, but I just loved it from day one. And that's really important because I think this is how this triggered my passion for business, running a business and entrepreneurship. So they were entrepreneurs. I worked for them. Then I moved to Cambodia. I worked for another entrepreneur. And there in Cambodia, I actually worked for two entrepreneurs in two different businesses. And the last company I worked for was in the advertising space. I had some shares in the business, so that was my first approach of touching it a little bit. But what is really interesting when I look at my journey is that everybody around me is an entrepreneur. Like my best friend is an entrepreneur. My father used to be an entrepreneur. His father used to be an entrepreneur. I mean, all my friends a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs. And so when I was around the age of 40, I was like, do you know what? If I don't do it now, I will never do it. It's now or never. So I was okay. I've decided I will do it. I will launch a business of mine. But now the next question was okay, what is it that I am going to do? Because you know what, I've been working in the service industry, so obviously this is going to be something around the service industry. But I really asked myself that question: what am I good at? What are my strengths? And it took me over a year to figure it out. And I remember one day where I think we are in August 2017, I think. I was at my parents', I was on vacation, and literally I woke up in the morning, I was like, I know, I'm going to be a coach, because it just made sense. Because I realized that throughout my journey, running businesses for others, I particularly enjoyed, coaching others, mentoring my staff, growing them, spending time teaching, training, seeing them blossom. That's really my thing. And I've also been always very much into helping people. I just can't help it. I have to help them. I have to help people, even if they don't ask, if they don't ask for help, which sometimes is not a good idea.
Right? Yeah.
And so, being a coach just made sense. And then I thought, my target audience is I'm going to work for entrepreneurs or with entrepreneurs, because this is something that I understand. That's an industry that this is the type of people I sat in their seats. I speak kind of the same language, and this is how I started my journey back in Cambodia in October 2017.
Wow. I have to ask real quick, like, why Southeast Asia? What made you move there?
Another woman.
Yeah. It's just what happens, right?
Yeah.
Good way to pick where you want to live. Yeah.
Yes.
Laurent, when you were mentioning around this passion of like helping entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
is it the part you like helping is seeing them build a business, or is it on the individual level? Like, which one drives you more? Seeing the individual succeed, or seeing the idea come to life, or scale? Maybe the business is already there. You like seeing them successful. Like, which one drives you more?
I think it's a combination of both. But the first, it's really seeing people changing, like having a breakthrough. Those aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
When I literally see it, I see the sparkles in their eyes, and that for me, this is the biggest reward. If I could do it for free, I would. And that's the key, because when they are going through such a moment, then this has an effect on them. This has an effect on mindset. I'm sure we're going to talk about mindset, and therefore it will affect their business positively.
Well, on that note, then I'm actually very curious, because for you to jump into this world, because again, a lot of our listeners being aspiring entrepreneurs, or those who are in that business moving that way, what you had to overcome, I assume, some things yourself to say, okay, I am now going to help people do this, and I'm going to accept money for it. Because when you mentioned that you just love doing it, and I can relate too, there's things where I'm just like, look, I just want to help you. Let's jump on it. But you obviously need to think about your own living a life. How did you make that transition to charging, and then from there to deciding what that right amount and balance was, considering, as you said, you'd be tempted to do this stuff for free?
The charging for my services has never really been a problem.
Okay.
This is business, right?
Yeah.
It's we're having an interaction together. I give you something, and in exchange you give me money for my services. So that's, and I've been working, I've been working in the service industry for 20 years. So this is an industry that I understand. So that was not an issue. What was an issue is the part where, how much should I charge?
Yeah.
And I started really low, and step by step, I started increasing my fees. But
got it.
It's I have to. I sometimes, still today, I have to sit and really realize what I have achieved. I've got more than 20 years of experience.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I sell. I've got dozens of testimonials from clients being super happy about my work. I mean, if I have a potential client, my best marketing is for the potential client to talk to a current client. All of my clients are super happy to do that, and they've done it in the past. I mean, it speaks, for some. It said something, right?
Yeah.
And it's really about me realizing all of that, and being brave enough to charge what I think I'm worth. Mm-hmm. But it's still I know that I could charge more, but I'm still not mentally. I'm not there yet, because I feel like I still feel like I am an imposter. I have no right to be there.
Yeah, it's so interesting and fascinating when you consider, again, as you said, just your track record that's there. And I think what you're alluding to is, I would assume, what you probably find a lot of people you actually help, ironically, run into. I'm assuming, like, what are some of the big bottlenecks when you're talking to these business owners? And when Artin mentioned earlier the SMEs, there's small and medium size, businesses or enterprises, as that would stand for, like, what are those things that you consistently see people running into?
There are three common bottlenecks that I see all the time. The number one is the inability to get away from the day-to-day so that you can focus on strategy in the big picture. Because building a business is so demanding, there's so many things to do that it's easy to get caught into all the operational tasks, all the little things. Right. And as a result, entrepreneurs get lost there, and they have a lot of difficulties in coming back, just elevating themselves and look at the big picture. Yeah. It's a bit like if you were like drowning into a lake without the possibility to get back up to the surface, and you drown and you drown and you drown and you drown and you drown.
So working in the business instead of on the business, basically, right? Yeah.
The number two is, again, an inability to let go. This one is really, really, really strong. It's as the business evolves, your role as an entrepreneur should also evolve. At the beginning, for instance, you're doing everything, right? So it's normal that you put your heads everywhere, that you're on top of everything, you're very hands-on. But then you start recruiting people, then you start maybe setting up some processes. But those people that you recruit, those processes that you have to write, it means that you must feed them. You must feed them with things that you used to do, and transfer that to those people. But to be able to do that, you need to let go. It's absolutely okay to let go and trust someone to do the job better than you. And that is perhaps the most difficult things to do for all the entrepreneurs that I know.
Is it a trust issue?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like they can do it better.
This is how they would say it. This is you will hear it. It's a trust issue. It's a mindset issue. So it's not only necessarily trust. Maybe they trust them, but they don't have the mindset to let go. It's you hear a lot about, oh yeah, but I'm going to do it because it's faster. Or if I do it myself, I'm going to do it because they're not going to do it the same way as me, and it's going to take a lot of time to train them. And by the time that they train them, I will have done it like 5 times.
Right.
So it's also a question of priorities, of building foundations. And the last bottleneck, I would say, the most common one is a lack of clarity of direction. Because as the business evolves, as you grow, you come to a point where you might be a bit lost. You don't know if you're going to the left, to the right, straight, what are the decisions that you're making, and that lack of clarity brings the indecision. You're not able to make decisions, and there is nothing worse than not making a decision. A bad decision is better than no decision at all.
Is lack of what you described is the same thing as lack of focus, or are those two different things from your perspective?
So the lack of clarity, it's a bit different. For me, the clarity is about the big picture. Simon Sinek, start with why. Other people talk about the purpose, talk about the mission, the vision. Where is it that you want to go? What is it that you want to achieve? What is the impact that through your company you want to make on the world? Yeah. This is the type of clarity I'm talking about. And with time, because there are so many opportunities coming up your way, you might lose track of that. And this is where you get lost. And this is where you start making decisions that don't make sense, or you start not making any decisions at all. Yeah. Being focused is more on the execution. Like I'm going to do that, and that's the only thing I'm going to do for the moment until it's done.
Makes sense. I think I
like that distinction.
Yeah, and what I see in what you described there too, and I don't know if you look at it quite in this way, but visually I'm just trying to think about it. And once you understand that, why, that helps you to then start, looking a little bit more at the, I guess you step back you need to be able to step out of that business, which you can only do if you start delegating to yourself. Then you can lead it. Like, you need all of those things to really line up right to truly operate a business in a way that allows you to not be free of it, but it's to not be trapped by it,
Yes.
which I guess means being free to a degree as well. So very interesting. And I'm curious, do you see people struggling more in one of those areas than the other, or is it usually all three that they've managed to get themselves, tangled up in?
It's usually all three. The first two are tied together, are linked together. Sorry, and they are usually a bigger issue than the third one.
Okay.
The third one should usually happen either at the beginning, because it's difficult to put on paper what is it that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start scaling up.
Makes sense, because you probably also start to get buried a bit. At first it's just bringing in some money, trying to do well, but then suddenly you're stuck doing certain things. So
you get stuck into operations. Because you get stuck into operations, you don't spend time on strategy. Because you don't spend time on strategy, well, then you lack clarity of direction.
Sure.
And then what you hear is your staff telling you, well, what's the point of that? We have the impression that we are not doing what we are supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Very interesting. I've seen that. I've also seen that, what you described on the corporate side for a lot of people as well. They run into, little mini businesses, if you will, in that. But obviously the impact really is in trying to grow your own business. And I can see this is probably where, when you do look at the failure rate of businesses, it gets where it is, because I think people probably get so tied up in that they can never really get to a point of scale where it feels it's worth it, might be a way to put it, instead of hindered by it. So
speaking of impact, I know you mentioned to us that you've developed an impact assessment.
Yes.
Can you walk us through that and just tell us, is that when you start an engagement with a coaching engagement, is this an assessment that somebody starts with, or is that something they do once they're actually within the coaching process?
No, that is before. That is before the coaching. So if they are interested in, understanding what coaching is about, or having a conversation with me, I will put them through this coaching, this impact assessment, so that I better understand what is their dreams first. Where do they want to go? What sort of journey have they been going through? What are their bottlenecks? Even though I might not use the word bottlenecks, I might talk about challenges or other, but from there I will be able to determine the bottlenecks.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to analyze the impact of those bottlenecks if nothing is done. That's one thing, because you have your dream, then you have those challenges. If you don't do anything about those challenges, what is the cost of that? That's what I'm trying to understand in terms of impact. And then I'm trying to show them what would be the impact if they were doing something about their bottlenecks.
Got it. So it's a lot of mindset and kind of getting people to shift how they think about themselves and their life, their current state, future state.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, sticking with the mindset, would you say that for founders and entrepreneurs to overcome these bottlenecks and challenges, is it, a few set of mindset changes, or do you see, a variety of different ways that you help somebody, or is it just comes down to, you have, 5 things on your menu and you're like, oh, this one fits in, menu option 2, this is what I got to do, or is it pretty wide?
It's not. It's about realizing that it starts with you. You were talking, Michael, about the why startups fail.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that mindset is there's a big reason that we don't talk about is the mindset. A lot of startups fail because of mindset. I believe the difference between a great entrepreneur and an excellent entrepreneur is the mindset. It's not about the skills. Of course, are important. Don't get me wrong. Okay. You might have better negotiation skills, but the way you approach a negotiation starts in your head. It starts with your mindset. We talk about resilience a lot. That's what also I'm talking about when I'm talking about mindset.
Sure.
And so And so it's about realizing that you might be the bottleneck. The issue might be with you. Because most of the time you hear, oh yeah, but this is not happening because of something else. My staff. I don't trust my staff. What we're talking about. All right. Okay.
Right.
But let's reverse that. Let's look at what's going on there. Why don't you trust your staff? If you recruited them, by the way, what's going on?
I know. Huh?
So it's really about starting with yourself, realizing it is with you, and then having the courage, because it requires courage to look inside you, to understand what's going on, which can be really painful sometimes. And that's why it's always easier to be the victim. It's not me, it's the others. It's the current it's a current environment. Yeah, of course, all of that counts. The environment counts, the constraints, the luck counts also. Some people are luckier than others. Yes, all of that counts. But the mindset is also a very important part that is neglected. So once you understand that, now you have to understand that it might be you, might start with you. Mm-hmm. My role is to help entrepreneurs shift perspective on their issues. You don't trust the staff, okay? So let me show you a different angle, a different perspective, a different view on that particular issue, so that we can really dig what are the reasons behind it.
And I'm curious here too, because I can't help but think about it when you say all of this sort of stuff. Is you're sort of a psychologist, or it's like
therapist.
Yeah, therapist. Yeah, it might be more like it. Yeah, but rightfully so again, because I think a lot of people, these aren't things that necessarily we know or learn. They don't come up in school in that sort of way. You're not thinking about them in this way. But I am curious, is that when you are going through this process with individuals, there's probably a lot to do with helping them see different, but some of it could also be belief related and seeing what's possible here. Typically, how long when you work with somebody, is this something where you work with them, you help them, overcome and see differently, and then they're like, I don't want to call it new person, off they go? Or is it something where you're like, you're really trying to help them build these new habits, you need to kind of stick with it for a while with them to make sure, because it's so easy to fall back into their old ways?
Yeah. Coaching is really about results. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I want the people that come to me they have a problem, and I'm there to help them solve their problem through coaching / mentoring. I really have to work on a long-term sustainable solution with them.
Yep.
It's like they really have to, my goal is to make sure that they shift their perspective and then don't fall back into their old habits.
Right. Makes sense.
Now, obviously, I cannot guarantee the results because I am not them. They have to be accountable for themselves. But hopefully through the coaching sessions and through the homework I'm going to give them, or they're going to assign to themselves, actually, they will be able to understand what actions they need to take to change for the long term.
Sure. Makes sense. No electrical therapy there, though? No shocking therapy? They just,
I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist.
Maybe one of those dog collars.
No, if you come to Finland in winter, we can go into a sauna and then
there you go
into the frozen.
There you go. I'm curious if you think some of this mindset is someone born with, or if anybody that has a desire to be an entrepreneur can basically develop these mindsets.
I think everybody can develop it. I think it's more about, are you ready to do the work on yourself? Are you ready to sit on your ego? And God knows the ego can be very strong with entrepreneurs. My biggest objection is, I don't need a coaching. I know. Look where I come from. Everything I've achieved behind me. I know. But I'm not sick. That is the biggest challenge that people face. And that is what is blocking their change, their perspective on the mindset. Someone told me last one, I don't need to delay. I don't need to learn more about delegation. I already know everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is really arrogant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I had that conversation with a team that I had absorbed once when I was at Disney. And the first thing that they said is, oh, you don't have to worry about us. We've got like everything figured out, nailed down. I'm like, oh no, I'm worried more than anything. Like as soon as, somebody feels at that point, it's like, you've got to be thinking about that constant way of all, evolution and how you continue to look at things that are going to come your way. And there's this interesting thing with self-awareness, because some people who feel they're really self-aware, but we had somebody actually talk about this before. There's a balance between that and like humility to be able to actually understand. Like it's one thing when you know yourself, you think you know, but it's another thing when you're willing to also admit the things you don't know, which can be really difficult for some people.
And self-awareness starts with a lot by starts with the things that I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, great point. I'm curious here then too, because as you go through it and as you're working with individuals, like what are some of those, indicators of that progress and success for them to know that they're moving forward? Because I can think about this in terms of things that are more tangible that you can like see, but sometimes some of this stuff you don't see it right away. So like how do people understand the progress that they're making?
Yeah. So as soon as we go into a coaching relationship, the first thing we're going to do together is determine what I call key success indicators. Uh-huh. 3 of them, because 3 is a good number. Basically, they are, I was telling you that coaching is a lot about getting results. So this is the way to get results. These are beacons that we want to achieve at the end of a coaching relationship, which is going to last around 6 months. More or less, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, depends. And those indicators are really based on the client, what they want to achieve, but also based on their words. So it's their world. It's not my world. It's where I am helping. I am just a guide. So they have to come up with it. What I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to find out what the real indicator is. Yeah. Because often, what I see is that they want to work on something, but that's very short term, and that is not the end goal. What I'm trying to find out is what will we get you? What is the end goal? Yeah. That from there we work backward, and so if we target that end goal, we make sure that we talk about and address all those little issues before.
Sure.
Okay. Those indicators, we make them as measurable as possible because, like you said, it's very important to track progress. Yeah. And for instance, we will use things like, a scale out of 10 or something like one of my clients last year, we look at his calendar. Mm-hmm. And his calendar, before we started the coaching session, 85% of these meetings were operational. He wanted to change that down to 25%. Okay. And for him, in his mind, that was the end goal. That would force him to go through everything else before he is able to get there.
Very interesting. That makes sense to be able to see it, like that way, because it's not an easy thing to achieve unless you solve for some of the other items. So
yes, absolutely.
So I'm curious here too with your clients, just as you mentioned, you can almost put anyone in touch with any of them and they, sing the praises about, what they were able to accomplish. And I'm curious, is there like a particular client story that comes to mind that you'd share where, what they were able to overcome and then what success that led to for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one of my clients when I was in Cambodia. He was running an interior design company. So he was an architect, right? And he approached me because he was like, okay, I'm the bottleneck. He didn't use the word, but he used something else, which was very similar. I want to grow the business, but I can't because I'm spending too much time on client management. I deal with all the clients. I manage all the projects. And so I can't multiply myself. So I'm stuck. It had maybe like 10 or 12 staff at the time. And so we started working on it. We started looking at, what were the reasons for him loving project management. I started there. And because I need background. That's the first thing of coaching. Give me some background. So you're telling me, all right, because, I just love client management. I can't see myself doing something else. It's amazing. I love the clients. I love spending time with them. I love blah, 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 blah. He was telling all these stories.
Yeah.
Excuses, but we didn't know that yet.
Right.
About why he was running all the projects. But we didn't stop there. Shifting perspective, and step by step, questions after questions, we dug even further, and we came out to the real reason. And the real reason was that he did not want to let go client management because he was afraid that he would that would deteriorate his standards of quality. So if he was looking at giving that, hiring someone, delegating project management to that person, he was afraid that person would do a less better job than him when it comes to delivering the standards of quality that made his reputation over the years. But we work on a solution, shifting perspective. Instead of looking at it as a potential constraint, why don't we look at it as a potential opportunity? Why don't you hire someone who will develop even further your standards of quality, so that you can hire even better clients, etc., 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 etc.
Yeah.
So that is really a typical story. Okay. So that's what it means, changing perspective. But first, I needed to understand what is really the issue, because I never believe my clients with the first thing they say. Never. That's a coaching rule. Never believe your clients.
That's funny, right? That's fair. Yeah, you're able to do the drone shot of them, for lack of a better way, that they can't do. So well, and I'm curious here too, because like when you use that particular example, are people generally looking for more financial success in their business, or are they sometimes looking more for like freedom, for lack of a better way to put it, like a different type of, just not being stuck?
No, none of my clients are talking about money.
Interesting.
None of them. Usually the business, their business is already quite successful. So money is not necessarily an issue, but they're not doing it to be more financially successful. They're doing it because they feel that their business is not where it should be. And also it's taking a toll on their health and their well-being.
Yeah.
They don't spend enough time with the family. They're stressed. They don't take care of themselves. Maybe they don't eat correctly. They don't sleep well. They're a bit overweight, etc., etc. And they feel that if they don't change anything, well, they're gonna hit a wall.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow. I don't think I would have expected that, because I would have assumed a financial component, but I guess I could get that, because at that point, some of them who probably reached that level have, built enough of a business. It's just, again, they built a business on top of them. And that's the part where they need some free, ability to break free from it. So
absolutely. Laurent, how often, if a client obviously thinks their business can be more successful, how often would you say, I'm sorry, I don't think this is a big enough idea. I can coach you for mindset, but I don't think you're going to get those results that you're actually looking for from a business growth perspective?
I say that all the time, in the sense that I tell them that I don't guarantee the results. My favorite things to tell them is, I don't do anything. You do all the work. I'm just a guide. I ask the questions. I put you on the right tracks. But all the work is done by my clients. That's why it's really important to be ready. So what I'm looking at instead is, are you coachable, and are you committed? The last question that I ask in my impact assessment is, on a scale 0% to 100%, how committed are you? I'm looking at minimum, even though it's not, it's a low threshold. It's 80% minimum, because I am going to challenge you. This is going to be difficult. What I'm looking at is, during the coaching session, I'm looking at the questions that will bother them, because I know we are onto something. Every time a client tells me, "Oh man, this question, F you," I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, let's continue," because we're onto something here, and I really want to dig deeper.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make them accountable. I'm gonna make sure that when they say things, I will remind them if they didn't do it. They pay me for that. They pay me for that too, and they want it, because that's another thing that they lack. They lack accountability for themselves.
Right. Yeah, I find that that's actually what a lot of entrepreneurs, even though oftentimes we want the freedom, to not be told what to do by others, it's like you do get to this point where there's this. It can be difficult to keep yourself focused on the things that you should be, because everything else is taking and absorbing your time. So it's like you need to give those things priorities enough. And I think that accountability can really help with that. And I'm curious, do you think every entrepreneur should have a coach?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, I'm going to preach. I'm going to preach for my industry. But why does every sports team have a coach?
Exactly.
Why? It's exactly the same.
And multiple coaches, by the way, for sports teams, depending on different types.
Multiple coaches, and starting from school.
Yeah.
There's a coach for the football team, or American football in the US.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
Well, yeah, and then you get into that. You've got your Art knows more because he follows the sports more than I do. But like, you get your nutrition coach, you get your defense coach, you get your offense coach, you get your all these sort of things. So, it is interesting though, because there's a stigma, I think, sometimes, and I think you mentioned it earlier when you said that just sometimes people are like, they have had enough success that they don't think that they need this outside person coming and telling them how to do it. So what do you think gets a person to that realization that they do need it? Is it just hitting the breaking point in their business, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I find is that people will first self-experiment. Entrepreneurs, but even people in general, first self-experiment, try stuff. Okay, it'll get there. Maybe it'll get them somewhere for a while, until it breaks down again. Because all those self-experimentations usually are very short term. They are short fixes, right? They do not address the long-term sustainability, that shift in perspective, therefore that shift in mindset we were talking about earlier. So they have to reach to a point where they're like, man, nothing is working. I think it might be me. Because we're talking about bottlenecks. All those short-term fixes, what they address are operational bottleneck first. Usually, they don't address mental bottlenecks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you want to delegate? I don't trust my team. Well, I'm going to learn techniques to trust the team and to delegate better. But I am not going to work on what is really preventing me from trusting them.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to reach a point where you are like there, where you're like, okay, maybe it's me. Oh, coaching. Oh, interesting. Oh, Laurent. Oh, there you go.
Right. So in that scenario, do you find that it's usually a business that's hit certain types of revenue, or like, is it normally those who operate medium size? Is it small, but like more than two? Like, what does that normally look like?
I think it can be anybody. My sweet spot is when they reach a certain type of revenue, a certain size, and they want to go to the next level. Okay. But to be able to do that, they really have to work on themselves. Yeah. Also, for one reason or another, I'm very popular among technical funders.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it just happened. I started with entrepreneurs, and now I got more and more technical funders coming to me. So by technical funders, I mean people with no business background, usually engineers. I love engineers. Yeah. They have this a great bottleneck with engineers is this strive for perfection. the endless questions, and you're never ready, and so you're always postponing the launch of anything,
Yeah.
undecisiveness,
Yeah.
instead of accepting the good enough. It's a great one.
Seen it. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is that's my sweet spot. Like people, technical founders in a moment where they want to scale up.
Yeah. Okay. And there's this dual side. So I'm asking a question that still all relates, but it's related to your own business, growth side of it. Where do you generally, like for you now, when you find your customers, how are you attracting those customers?
Most of the time it's going to be word of mouth.
It is. Okay.
In Finland, or networking.
Yeah.
And also a little bit on LinkedIn. The thing is with coaching is it takes so much time, because not only you have to find me among everybody else, but then you also have to spend enough time with me to make sure that I am the right coach for you, that you trust me, because they're gonna tell me stuff, very personal stuff, so they have to feel safe. Not only they have to feel safe, but they also have to feel that I am going to be able to help them really for what I promised to them. So that takes a lot of time. Sure. And so that's how usually I got my clients, or referrals sometimes.
And are most of your clients then virtual or in person?
Virtual, except if they are living in the same country, Finland. Even in Finland, there's a lot of virtual.
Yeah. Okay.
Since the COVID.
Sure, makes sense.
Somebody is overwhelmed. A early stage founder or an established business owner is kind of feeling overwhelmed and stuck. Yeah. Except to calling you. Yes. What's one other way would you help tell them do this to be on the right track?
I'm not sure I get your question. Sorry.
I just how could somebody get unstuck? What's one advice you would give them to be unstuck? And not to call you, obviously that would be the better choice. But if they were going to try to solve it themselves, what should they do?
I mean, early stage.
Early stage, yeah.
Wow, where should I start?
That's the whole episode, huh?
No, early stage. I do have a couple of clients early stage, and it's less coaching, a bit more mentoring. So there's a bit more like advice for them, because I also want to give them the foundations to build their business. But one of the things that I see over and over and over again is that lack of clarity that we were talking about earlier on. Why did you start your business? There's one thing that I love to do is I love asking people, especially early stage, to talk about their companies. Tell me about your company. What do you do? Don't pitch. Please don't pitch. I'm not an investor. Don't pitch. Because there's always a discrepancy between the way they say it and the way it's written on their website. And usually the way they say it, it's a lot closer to what it is that they want to achieve than when it's written on their website.
Interesting.
So that's the first advice. It's, look at what you do. Why do you do it? What is the impact? What is the impact you want to make? The second one that I see over and over and over again is the clients. Who do you serve? Who do you want to serve? Who are your ideal clients? A lot of early stage funders make the mistake of wanting to go after everybody, which is not possible. So you have to be very clear about, who you want to target. But also, sometimes they even get confused about who the clients are. Giving you a specific example, it's very clear in the B2B2C industry, where you build a platform where you have users and clients, brands. Let's say brands. You have brands and users. You need the users to attract the brands. The brands pay the platform to be to be promoted on, right? But in the mind of the funders, The clients are the users, the people. But it's not true. They are just users. They are part of the product. If people do not give you money, they are not clients. They are users. And that I see a lot also. So that's my second advice. Be very clear about who your clients are. Customers, the people who pay you the money.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I hadn't even really thought about it in that way either. So
no, I mean, especially
I can give you another one if you want.
Yeah, another one. Yeah, another
advice
example
is don't worship the money. We were talking about money earlier. Don't worship the money. There's too many funders, and that is because of the VC and the mentality they have created. A lot of funders, even before having a business plan, they think about how much money they're going to be able to raise, and they're going to be a millionaire even before having started the business. Money is just a mean to an end. Money is never the end.
Yeah.
And remember that VCs, they are playing a game. Okay, their game is to give you money. They want a return on investment. They are not your clients. They are just shareholders. The biggest component of the component of a business is your customers. These are the people who or the companies that you can rely on for the future. These are the people who pay the bills at the end. These are the people who pay the salaries, not the VCs, not the shareholders.
VCs all becomes a very interesting balance when juggling a business.
Yeah. Laurent, this definitely has been a very insightful conversation. If somebody was, watching or listening to this episode and says, "Oh my God, I need him as a coach," where could they find you?
Absolutely. They can find me on my website, laurentnotin.com. On the top right corner, they can book an impact assessment call with me.
Awesome.
I'm also on LinkedIn at Laurent Notin. And that's the two most common platforms that I use.
Sounds good. Well, we'll link to that, ability, what you mentioned on your website, to be able to get to the assessment with you. And otherwise, this has been great. Thank you.
No, this has been great. I think, I don't know about Michael, but there's some things that definitely resonate with me personally as well. So if anybody else watching or listening, this conversation resonated with them and there's more questions, just drop them below. And then we'll see everybody on the next episode. And thank you, Laurent.
Thank you very much for having me.